So today what I want to do is walk you through an example analysis essay. Now before we get started, I want to point out that there are some differences in this essay from the assignment that I'm asking you to do. So there's some caveats here. So one thing this essay does that you will not do is it analyzes multiple ads from the same brand from Apple. It also does and sets up a compare and contrast. That is not what I'm asking you to do in this assignment. In this assignment, you're only going to pick one commercial and you're going to analyze that one commercial. Even so, this is one of the best examples that I could find, and there's still a lot that we can learn from it. Some things that are similar to it is that it is formatted exactly the way you would format it, except for this beginning part. I went ahead and put the works cited entry at the top. The only difference is yours would have your normal MLA heading at the top instead. But as far as page number and last name, and as far as the rest of the formatting here and the quote integration, this is all good stuff that you can learn from. Okay, so let's talk about what this essay is doing. And before you watch this video, you should have read the essay, so it makes sense to what I'm referring to here. The first paragraph, what the author is doing is he's giving us some background of the brand's style and of their attitude. And this gives you an example of how you might find some research about what other people have said about your brand and how your brand does its commercials, does its advertisements. So that's something that you might be inspired by. In the second paragraph is where we get the closest thing to the author's thesis. You'll want an explicit thesis in this assignment, and that explicit thesis is going to be your opinion statement or your judgment about the commercial. And so he says here, regardless of whether you love or hate the spots, you'll likely remember them, and that's the first step to building a successful image. So his overall insight is, hey, Apple makes really memorable advertisements. And so then the rest of the essay focuses on proving that by analysis, by breaking apart small pieces of the ads, pointing them out to us, and explaining how they connect to his insight. The next thing that he does in paragraph 3 is give a short summary of the advertisement. That's another thing that you'll have to do in this assignment. So even though I'm going to have access to your ad and you can expect that your reader has heard or seen the ad, that you still need to remind them of key components. So there will be a little bit of summary because you need to explain first what happens in the video or in the commercial to then be able to analyze it and point out to your reader why that is significant and why it's important. And you'll see that in the rest of the essay, this author follows that pattern, introducing a commercial, explaining what's in it, and then offering insights. And he actually does that for 3 different commercials. And remember, you'll only do that for one. He does put photographs in here. If you want to put still shots of your commercial in, you can, but it's not necessary. Just know that it's an option. What I've done here is I've highlighted in the rest of the essay parts that strike me as the core of analysis. So what the author is doing is pointing out a specific detail or feature of the commercial and then highlighting what is meaningful to it, always as it relates to his insight. So he's always going back to his thesis that Apple ads are memorable. And that's what will bring you an essay that has strong unity and good focus throughout. So after he describes the ad and it being humorous and some of the things that happens, he says what it does. The end result is that it spells out the Mac's advantages in a way that's both accessible and memorable for the average user. Then he does the original iPod commercials, and that's another drawback to this essay is that it's really old, right? It's showing us some really old commercials way back from 2003. but still relevant for our purposes. So after he describes what these iPod commercials were like, he says, here's the effect that it has. It shows iPods as fun and hip in one of the most iconic spots. Anonymous silhouettes dance to the beat of some popular new song. And even as they've incorporated more recognizable musicians, the silhouettes remain, and the stark images of the iPod dancers have really burned themselves into your brain. So in that section, what you get is this really nice balance of here's what's happening, here's why it's significant, and what it means. And you'll constantly shift back and forth between those as you make your point in this essay. Another statement of judgment, and this is, his conclusion after looking at the elements and analyzing the individual elements. He says they share an elegant simplicity that echoes the company's own penchant for design and user friendliness. So again, connecting it to what it's doing, how effective it is, which is his focus, right? You could maybe have the opposite focus, that the ad is a flop and it isn't successful, and have support to back that up. And then here's a final one. They're shot on a monochrome background, feature little, if any, text until the conclusion, and then ends with that iconic Apple logo, unifying the product in consumers' mind and reinforcing its brand and image. So again, telling us here's what it does, doesn't have any text, then boom, shows us the logo. And why do they do that? What effect does that have? Here's what it means. Here's why it's important and significant. So I hope that you found this essay walkthrough a little helpful to give you an idea of how you might approach this assignment. And as always, if you have any questions about what's going on in this specific essay and how you might do that in your essay, please just let me know and reach out to me.